Let's take a look at the integrated review, which FDA does now. These are really valuable documents to read. A lot of people don't know they even exist, but they're super valuable. Okay, they submitted the BLA 12/17/2020. They got a standard review, so 1 year full approval, neonatal FcRn blocker. I think it's a soluble receptor. So they clone the receptor and they just IV that, and the patient has circulating receptor. So it serves as a decoy receptor. So this is for myasthenia gravis. GMG, or generalized myasthenia gravis, is an autoimmune condition that affects acetylcholine receptor. And basically the body forms autoantigens. The body forms autoantibodies to the antigen, which is the acetylcholine receptor. You need acetylcholine that binds the acetylcholine receptor for movement. You guys may be familiar from cassava. We talked about acetylcholinesterase inhibitors that block the enzyme called acetylcholinesterase. Acetylcholinesterase blocks or esterizes or removes the ester from acetylcholine. But acetylcholine is just necessary for all nerve transmission. So in myasthenia gravis, you have all kinds of weird symptoms, particularly fatigue and something called psoas, which is an eye. This weird eyelid droopiness. So if you ever see somebody looking like that, you might say, gee, you might have myasthenia gravis. But there's other symptoms of myasthenia. Weakness, fatigue, voluntary muscle control, breakdown in communication between nerve and muscles. That's a good way to put it. Difficulty swallowing, breathing, etc. So rough disease, and for a while, because there's autoantibodies, I should say, Rituxan, which stops B cell production, is extremely effective. But Roche, the Genentech, never went and got approval for it. You know, now their best-selling drug is for MS. Again, a disease where sometimes you have autoantigens, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have an autoantibody response, sometimes you don't. So they could have and should have gotten a GMG approval. Lots of people have myasthenia. It's a very interesting disease. I considered developing drugs for myasthenia gravis in the past. Almost went full steam ahead with it. So again, if you're watching and you say, I want to make $1 billion, well, you could have, by saying, well, I need a CD20 antibody, not Rituxan, Roche owns that, they're not giving it to you. But I need either to make a CD20 antibody or develop my own. And there was a company that had one lying around. And you probably still could do this. And say, I'll take that CD20 antibody, I'll develop it for myasthenia gravis, I'll do a clinical trial, I'll get FDA approval. This whole thing's going to cost you money. It's about $100 million. But the first few million, you could probably get it started with $2 million. And you can raise that $2 million from friends and family, people you know, funds, I don't know. Good luck. But once you do that, you've got a drug company. Take that and go to Wall Street and raise the next. Maybe you can make $3 or $4 billion. Now, by the end of all the dilution from the investors, you might own 5 or 10%. But, you'll be the next Vivek. Now, you got to sit there and read all this stuff, this 200-page document. This has got to be seared into your memory. Thousands of more pages on myasthenia gravis itself, talking to doctors who treat the disease. It's tons of work. And you might decide at the end of that work, wait a second, Martin was wrong. This would not do that well. This drug's a lot better, this Vyvgart. Or doctors would use the generic. Now, that's not the case. Look at Ocrevus. Ocrevus is a CD20 antibody. It's actually an old drug, ocrelizumab from Roche. It was supposed to be like a backup for Rituxan. Rituxan for MS versus Ocrevus for MS, it's the same drug in my opinion. But they did the trials for Ocrevus, they got approval for Ocrevus, all the revenues at Ocrevus instead of Rituxan. Rituxan is now biosimilar. Ocrevus is going to be biosimilar too. Excellent, Cody. Yeah, you just have to know medicine. They only needed 167 patients. That's a small trial. Maybe that trial cost 50 million. You didn't need 200-300 million. Glazers unite. The phase 2 is 24 patients. That's it. They did 2 clinical trials, the whole thing. Oh, this is an antibody fragment. Okay. It is not a soluble receptor. Okay, there was a phase 1. There was a phase 1.